Okay, so you're here because, let's be honest, you want to understand things deeply. You
Yeah,
want to get to the heart of the matter, right?
absolutely.
And you know what? I hear you.
Yeah.
You don't want to feel like you're just drowning in information.
Nope.
And that's what we try to do with these deep dives, right?
This is it.
Today we're going to tackle Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now,
Oh,
a book
yes.
that has become like a touchstone, right? For
Yeah.
a lot of people out there who are seeking a different way to live their lives.
Yeah. And um it's written in a way that's it's very accessible. It's
Yeah.
like a dialogue, almost a guided journey
Yeah.
through, questions and answers.
Yeah.
And his aim is to help you discover the path
Yeah.
to a profound inner peace
Yeah.
and this spiritual awakening that's available like right now.
Right. And that's what we want to try to distill today.
Absolutely.
Like, what does it really mean to step outside the relentless stream of our thoughts
Right.
and truly connect with the present moment?
Yeah.
So, the core argument of the power of now
Yeah.
is that our suffering doesn't arise from the external world,
Right.
but from our minds being trapped in this loop
Yeah.
of, past regrets
Yes.
and future worries,
Hmm.
which constantly distract us from the only reality that really exists.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that the power of now isn't tied to any particular religious doctrine,
Right.
but the wisdom in it feels like it flows from the core
Yeah,
of universal spiritual truths.
it does. It feels that way.
Yeah, and Mark Allen, who wrote the preface, he points this out
Yeah.
and suggests that the path to understanding an inner light isn't something you have to search for.
Yeah.
It's something that's already present within you.
It's already there.
Yeah.
So let's dive into this first big idea.
Okay.
You are not your mind.
Right.
And this seems to be like the bedrock
Yeah,
of Tolle's teaching.
it is.
What exactly does he mean by that?
So basically, his fundamental point is that the biggest obstacle to what he calls awakening or presence
Right.
is identifying yourself solely with your mental activity,
Right.
your thoughts, your internal stories,
Yeah.
the constant mental commentary.
Right.
Now, the mind is a powerful tool
Sure.
for solving problems, navigating the world,
Yeah.
but it often takes over.
Okay.
So instead of you being in control of your mind ends up controlling you.
Okay. So that's a really subtle but crucial distinction.
Yeah.
Can you illustrate that a little bit?
Okay, so imagine trying to herd sheep with a very enthusiastic but untrained dog.
Okay.
The dog's running around barking at everything, constantly busy,
Right.
but not actually helping you direct the flock.
Right.
Similarly, our minds can be incredibly active with thoughts and worries and plans and memories.
Yeah.
But are you consciously directing all that activity, or is it just running on autopilot,
Yeah.
often creating more chaos than clarity?
Creating more problems than it solves. Right. And Tolle asks a very direct question in the book to you, the reader.
Yeah.
And he asks, can you stop thinking at will?
Right.
I mean, what's your take on that?
I think that simple question reveals a profound truth.
Yeah.
The fact that most of us find it incredibly difficult,
Yeah.
even for a few seconds, to completely silence the internal monologue,
Right.
it proves his point.
It does.
It suggests that the mind has become the master,
Right.
and we are unconsciously identifying with its incessant activity.
Yeah.
And true liberation begins with realizing that you are not the endless stream of thoughts,
Yeah.
but the silent observer behind them.
You're separate from those thoughts.
Exactly.
So the very act of noticing our thoughts without judgment
Yes.
starts to create that separation between us and our mind.
Precisely. And this act of detached observation initiates a higher level of awareness.
Okay.
You begin to recognize that there's a vast field of intelligence and consciousness
Okay.
that exists beyond mere thinking. And thoughts are really just one limited expression of that larger awareness.
I see.
He emphasizes that the truly valuable aspects of human experience,
Yeah.
profound creativity, unconditional love, genuine joy, deep inner peace,
Yeah.
these don't originate from the level of the busy analytical mind.
So how do we cultivate this ability
Yeah,
to
yeah.
observe the thinker?
Yeah, so the practice involves consciously directing your attention inward,
Sure.
not just to the content of your thoughts, like
Right.
what am I thinking about,
Right.
but to the very process of thinking itself, and to yourself as the silent. Witness the spaciousness in which those thoughts arise
Okay.
and eventually disappear.
They come and they go.
Right? This gentle act of witnessing, of not getting hooked into the narrative, gradually diminishes the power of the thoughts
Yeah.
to dictate your emotional state and your sense of self.
So it's like we don't have to believe every thought that comes into our head.
Exactly. It's like watching clouds drift across the sky. You observe them without needing to grab onto any particular one.
Just let them pass.
Yeah.
So as we begin to step back from identifying with our minds,
Mm-hmm.
we can start to connect with this idea of the power of now.
Right.
What is that core concept all about?
So at its heart, the power of now is about fully embracing and inhabiting the present moment
Okay.
without resistance.
Without resistance.
Tolle argues that the now is the only reality there is.
Okay.
Past is merely a memory.
Yeah.
It's a construct in the mind.
Right.
The future is just anticipation, another mental projection.
Yeah.
The only tangible experience is what's happening right here, right now.
So, but our minds are constantly being pulled back to the past
Yeah.
or leaping into the future.
Yeah.
What's driving that?
That's largely the domain of the ego.
Okay.
In Tolle's framework, the ego is this false sense of self
Okay.
that we construct through identification with the mind.
Mm-hmm.
Our thoughts, our memories, our opinions, our roles in life.
Yeah.
The ego thrives on time. It uses the past to define its identity.
Yeah.
Like, I am this because of what happened then.
Right.
And it projects into the future, seeking security, validation, or fulfillment.
I'll be happy when I get that thing.
Exactly.
Right. Okay.
So it constantly needs something outside of the present moment
Right.
to sustain its illusion of self.
So even when we think we're engaged with the present,
Yeah.
the ego might still be subtly influencing our experience.
Absolutely. Even when the ego appears to be occupied with the present moment,
Mm-hmm.
it often filters it through the lens of past experiences,
Mm.
judgments, and expectations.
Yeah.
Or, as you said, it reduces the present to a mere stepping stone
Right.
towards some anticipated future outcome.
So it becomes a means to an end.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Tolle encourages you to become a keen observer of your own mind
Okay.
and to notice just how often it's truly present versus being subtly driven by these time-bound patterns.
Right.
So how much of the time are you really present?
Versus, thinking about something else.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
And it's interesting how Tolle points out
Yeah.
that emergency situations can
Yeah.
suddenly snap us into the present moment.
Yes.
Why does that happen?
Because in moments of genuine crisis or immediate danger,
Right.
that usual mental chatter about the past and future
Yeah.
becomes irrelevant, even a hindrance to survival.
Right.
All focus narrows to what is happening right now
Right.
because your very existence depends on it.
You have to be present.
You have to be present.
Right.
And Tolle suggests that the allure of certain high-risk activities
Yeah.
for some individuals might be an unconscious seeking of that intense,
Wow.
time-free state of pure presence.
So it's like that adrenaline rush.
It is.
When you're, doing something dangerous or whatever,
Yeah,
brings you into the present moment.
absolutely.
Okay.
But his key message is that you don't need a life-threatening event
Right.
to access this state.
So what are some ways that we can consciously cultivate
Okay.
this awareness of the now in our everyday lives? So Tolle offers several very practical approaches.
Okay.
One is to bring your complete undivided attention
Okay.
to seemingly mundane activities.
Okay.
Something as simple as walking from one room to another,
Right.
washing the dishes,
Yeah.
feeling the sensation of the water on your hands,
Yeah.
or even just taking a few conscious breaths before answering your phone.
Yeah.
The key is to make these activities an end in themselves,
Right.
rather than just a means to an end.
Right. Instead of washing the dishes so that you can relax later,
Exactly.
you're just washing the dishes.
Yeah, pay close attention to the sensory details.
Right.
The feel of the ground beneath your feet.
Yeah.
The warmth of the water, the sound of your breath,
Right.
and a simple gauge of your success in accessing the nigh
Okay.
is the degree of inner stillness and peace you experience during these moments.
So if you're feeling that stillness,
Yes,
then you're probably in the present moment.
you're there.
Okay.
You got it.
So this leads into this idea that time as we typically experience it.
Is to some extent an illusion.
Yeah.
And Tolle talks about psychological time
Right.
as being a significant source of our suffering.
Yeah.
What does he mean by that distinction?
He's drawing a crucial distinction between clock time,
Okay.
the practical measurement of hours, days, and years
Yeah.
that we use for scheduling and organization,
Right.
and psychological time,
Okay.
which is our mind's persistent dwelling on past, hurts, regrets, resentments,
Yeah.
and its constant worrying and projecting about future uncertainties, anxieties, and desired outcomes.
So it's kind of like this loop
It is a loop.
that we get stuck in
Yeah.
of either the past or the future.
Exactly. And Tolle argues that our actual lived experience
Yeah.
is always unfolding in this present moment, the now.
But now.
He invites you to honestly consider.
Yeah.
Have you ever truly experienced anything outside of the now?
That's a good question.
Even memories and future plans
Yeah.
exist in our awareness now.
Right now.
It's really powerful when you think about it, that even when we're thinking about the past or the future,
Yeah.
we're doing it right now.
Exactly.
Yeah, and this habitual mental journeying outside of the present moment
Yeah.
creates what he calls the madness of psychological time.
Yes.
And he uses the example of how the relentless pursuit of a supposedly utopian future,
Yeah.
as seen in certain historical ideologies,
Right.
has tragically resulted in immense suffering and oppression
Yes.
in the present.
In the present.
So how can we recognize this madness that
Yeah.
play in our own daily lives?
So Tolle encourages you to look closely at how often your mental energy
Oh,
is directed towards wanting things to be different from how they are right now.
right.
Are you frequently mentally trying to escape the present
Yeah.
by reliving past events or fantasizing about future scenarios?
It's so easy to get caught up in that.
It is.
Right.
Do you often view your current tasks or circumstances
Yeah.
as mere obstacles to overcome on the way to some future state of happiness or fulfillment?
I'll be happy when I'm
Happy
not at
before.
work. Or, whatever.
Yeah.
I'll be happy when I'm on vacation.
Right.
Right.
He suggests observing if you tend to see even simple activities
Yeah.
as just a means to an end,
Right.
rather than something to be fully present with
Right.
and perhaps even enjoy.
Okay.
He underscores that genuine change.
Yeah.
And even the healing of past wounds can only occur in the lane.
Only in the now.
Yeah.
So let's shift our focus
done
to
it,
the
huh?
connection between our emotions
Yeah.
and what Tolle calls the pain body.
Okay.
How do our emotions arise in relation to our thoughts?
Right.
And what is this pain body?
Okay, so Tolle explains that emotions are essentially the body's response to the thoughts we have.
Okay.
They arise at the interface between the mind and the physical body.
Okay.
For instance, if you entertain angry, judgmental thoughts about someone,
Yeah.
your body might tense up,
Right.
your heart rate might increase.
Ah.
And these are the physical manifestations of what we experience as anger,
Yeah.
preparing you for a perceived conflict.
Okay. So
Yeah.
it's our body getting ready
Yeah.
to fight or whatever.
Yeah, and similarly, thoughts of threat or danger
Mm-hmm.
trigger a contraction in the body,
Okay.
which we perceive as fear.
Right. Like a stress response.
Exactly.
Okay.
He even touches on how scientific research is increasingly showing
Yeah.
the direct impact of strong emotions
Yeah.
on our body's biochemistry.
It's all connected.
That's all connected.
Okay.
So this underlying sense of suffering that we talked about earlier,
Yes.
how does that relate to our specific emotions?
Right. So Tolle suggests that beneath the surface of all our specific emotions,
Okay.
anger,
Yeah.
sadness, anxiety,
Right.
there lies a more fundamental, undifferentiated feeling of unease or suffering.
Okay.
He posits that this arises from a deep-seated loss of awareness
Okay.
of our true self,
Okay.
that essence beyond our name, our history, our roles.
The mind, in its constant attempt to define and protect this illusory self,
Right.
tries to suppress or escape this underlying suffering through endless activity,
Okay.
seeking distractions,
Mhm.
pleasures, achievement,
Right. So busyness.
busyness.
Right.
But this is often a temporary fix.
Okay.
And in fact, the more the mind tries to fight it,
Yeah.
the stronger it can become.
So it's like a snowball effect.
It is.
The more you resist it,
Yeah.
the worse it gets.
Because the mind itself,
Yeah.
with its egoic tendencies, is part of the problem.
Right. So the pain body is this accumulated residue of past emotional pain
Precisely.
that we carry within us.
The pain body is like an energetic accumulation
Okay.
of past emotional pain,
Okay.
unresolved grief, past traumas, unexpressed anger, deep disappointments.
So all of these things accumulate.
They do.
Right.
It resides in our mind and body
Okay.
as a kind of field of negative energy.
Right.
It can lie dormant for periods,
Okay.
perhaps feeling like a subtle background hum of negativity.
So like you just kind of feel bad?
Yeah, just a general feeling of unease.
Right.
But it can also become activated,
Okay.
often triggered by seemingly minor events in the present.
Oh, so it can come out of nowhere.
Yeah,
Okay.
that resonate with those past wounds.
Right.
Toll emphasizes that when we observe the pain body
Yeah.
with a state of present awareness, without judgment or identification.
Without judgment.
Yeah, like, oh no, I'm feeling negative again.
Right.
We begin to disidentify with it,
Okay.
breaking its hold on us.
So it's not us.
It's not you.
It's the separate thing.
Exactly.
Okay.
Gradually diminishing its power to control our emotions and reactions.
Right. Okay.
So it's about recognizing it's there,
Yeah.
but not letting it take over.
Not getting sucked into it.
Exactly.
Right. Fear seems to be a
Yes.
particularly significant emotion
It is.
that totally links to the ego.
Absolutely.
Why is that connection so strong?
So psychological fear,
Okay.
which Toll carefully distinguishes from the natural instinctual reaction to immediate physical danger.
Yeah, right. Like if a tiger jumps out,
Exactly.
you're going to feel fear.
Right. But psychological fear is almost invariably focused on something that might happen in the future,
Okay.
rather than what is actually occurring in the present moment.
Right.
This constant anticipation of potential negative outcomes
Yeah.
creates a pervasive undercurrent of anxiety and worry
Yeah.
in many people's lives.
It's like a background hum for a lot of people.
It is.
And it's this fear.
Yeah.
Right.
And Tolle connects this deeply to the ego's fundamental sense of vulnerability and insecurity.
Okay.
Despite all its defense mechanisms
Yeah.
and attempts to appear strong, the ego at its core feels constantly threatened
Okay.
because it knows on some level that it's an illusion,
Right.
a constructed identity.
She doesn't want to be found out.
Exactly.
Right.
And the underlying, often unconscious fear that drives the ego
Yeah.
is the fear of death,
Okay.
of annihilation, of the complete loss of its constructed sense of self.
Okay.
He illustrates this with the seemingly commonplace compulsion to be right in arguments.
Oh, yeah.
For the ego being proven wrong feels like a direct threat to its identity,
Yeah.
to the mental position it is so strongly identified with.
You see this all the time.
You do.
Right? People get so wrapped up
They do.
in being right.
Yes,
Huh.
and in a way, being wrong becomes equated with a form of psychological death for the ego.
Wow. So if we start to detach from this need to be right all the time, then we're actually diminishing that underlying fear.
Precisely, once you begin to loosen your identification with your mind and its opinions,
Okay.
whether you happen to be factually right or wrong
Yeah.
in a particular situation no longer has such a strong impact
Right.
on your fundamental sense of self-worth.
So it doesn't really matter.
It doesn't really matter.
You're right.
It's not about you.
It's not about you. It's
Yeah.
just about the topic at hand or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Tolle encourages you to become aware of any defensiveness that arises within you.
Okay.
What exactly are you so fiercely defending?
Right.
It's usually an illusory identity, a mental image of who you think you are.
Yeah.
Bringing conscious awareness to this pattern weakens its grip.
Right.
He points out that a significant portion of the population
Yeah.
lives in a more or less constant state of this underlying fear,
Okay.
though its intensity may vary greatly from person to person
Right.
and from moment to moment.
Okay.
So some people feel it more strongly than others.
Sure. And it could fluctuate
It can fluctuate.
from moment to moment.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So this leads us to presence and being.
Okay.
What are those states in Tolle's teaching?
So presence in Tolle's understanding is a state of intense conscious awareness
Okay.
focused entirely on the now,
Okay.
a state of alertness that exists beyond the continuous stream of thought.
Right. So it's like being fully here.
Yeah, fully here now. When you are truly present, fully inhabiting the current moment, you can begin to feel your own being,
Okay.
which is a deeper, more fundamental aspect of your identity
Yeah.
than your ever-changing thoughts and emotions.
It's who you really are.
It's who you really are.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the underlying essence of who you are.
And he makes a distinction between being and the concept of God.
He does.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
He clarifies that being is intended as an open, universal concept,
Okay.
something that is directly accessible to everyone,
Yeah.
as the simple, undeniable feeling of I am,
Okay.
before any specific label definition or personal history is attached.
Right. So it's like that pure sense of just being.
Exactly.
Right.
The word God, on the other hand, has accumulated so many different interpretations.
It's loaded.
It's a very loaded word,
Right.
dogmatic associations throughout history
Yeah.
that can easily become just another mental concept.
Another label.
Exactly.
Right.
An intellectualized idea
Yeah.
rather than a direct experience.
Right.
Being, as Tolle uses, it points to that formless, timeless essence
Okay.
that is the ground of all existence
Right.
and is intimately present within each of us.
So we all have that within us.
We all have that within us.
And how does our habitual identification with the mind act as a barrier
Right.
to experiencing the state of being?
So identification with the mind creates what Tolle describes as an opaque screen
Okay.
of concepts, labels, mental images,
Mhm.
words, judgments, and definitions.
So it's like this filter
It's a filter
that we have
Yeah.
on reality.
that filters and distorts our perception of reality.
Okay.
This mental screen blocks the direct experience of our own being
All right.
and our interconnectedness with all of life.
We feel separate.
We feel separate. Yeah.
Right.
It fosters the illusion of separation,
Right.
the feeling that you are a completely distinct and isolated entity,
Yeah.
fundamentally separate from everyone and everything else.
So we lose that sense of oneness,
We do.
that we're all connected.
Yet we lose sight of the underlying truth
Yeah.
that beneath the surface of our individual physical forms
Right.
and separate identities,
Yeah.
we are all part of the same fundamental oneness.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Tolle introduces this practice of connecting with the inner body.
Yes.
How does cultivating awareness of our physical sensations
Yeah.
help us in accessing the now?
So connecting with the inner body involves consciously shifting a significant portion of your attention
Okay.
away from your thoughts
Right.
and toward the subtle field of energy, the feeling of aliveness and vitality
Okay.
that is always present within your physical form.
Okay.
Awareness of the inner body acts as a powerful anchor in the now,
Okay.
because the physical body exists only in the present moment.
It does.
Right?
It's always here now.
It's always here now.
Okay.
And Tolle suggests that cultivating this interconnection can lead to profound personal transformation
Okay.
and serves as a direct pathway to what he calls the unmanifested realm of pure being.
What are some of the benefits?
So Tolle mentions several potential benefits,
Okay.
including a perceived slowing down of the aging process
Yep. Okay.
and a strengthening of the immune system.
Okay.
Not just on a physical level, but also, interestingly, what he refers to as the psychic immune system,
Oh, wow.
which helps to protect us from negative mental and emotional energies in our environment.
So like an energetic shield.
Exactly.
Okay.
So how do we actually go about connecting with this inner body?
Yeah, what are some techniques?
So Tolle provides a very simple yet effective technique.
Okay.
Consciously focus your attention
Okay.
on the subtle sensations within your body.
Okay.
Feel the aliveness in your hands, your feet, your arms, your legs, your torso.
So just noticing those sensations.
Just noticing, yeah.
Okay.
Try to perceive your body from the inside out
Okay.
as a unified field of subtle energy.
Right.
The more focused attention you give it, the clearer and stronger this sensation of inner aliveness will become.
Okay.
He advises focusing primarily on the feeling itself. Rather than trying to create any specific visual images,
Right.
being rooted in this awareness of your inner body provides a deep sense of stability and presence
Okay.
amidst the constant flux and change of the external world.
It grounds us.
Grounds you, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's delve into this concept of the unmanifested.
Okay.
What is that in Tolle's view?
So the unmanifested is Tolle's term for the fundamental source of all that exists.
Okay.
The realm of pure potentiality.
Right.
The formless, timeless essence that underlies all manifested forms in the universe.
Okay.
In essence, it's synonymous with the concept of being we discussed earlier.
Right.
Presence, that state of intense, non-reactive awareness in the now,
Right.
allows you to become, in a sense, transparent
Okay.
to the pure consciousness, the unconditioned light
Yeah.
that emanates from this unmanifested source.
So it's like a light shining through us.
Exactly. It's like
Gra-
clear glass allowing light to pass through unimpeded.
Okay.
So everything we perceive in the physical world
Yeah.
ultimately originates from this unmanifested realm of pure potentiality.
Okay.
According to Tolle's understanding, the entire manifested universe
Yeah.
arises from this unmanifested ground of being
Okay.
and ultimately returns to it.
So we come from it and we go back to it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He emphasizes that our deepest purpose and significance as individuals
Yeah.
lie in allowing the unfolding of this universal divine intelligence
Okay.
to flow through us,
Right.
unobstructed by the egoic mind.
Right. To let go of that ego.
Yeah, to let go of that ego and just allow things to flow.
And he identifies various doors or pathways
Yeah.
through which we can access the unmanifested.
Yes.
What are some of those?
He highlights several key doors,
Okay.
including the focused awareness of the nous,
Okay.
cultivating a deep connection with the inner body,
Right.
the practice of consciously interrupting the stream of thought,
Okay.
and the state of surrender to the present moment.
Surrender. What does that mean in this context?
Surrender, as Tolle presents it.
It is fundamentally about a state of non-resistance to what is.
Okay.
He argues that our habitual resistance to the present moment,
Yeah.
through judgment complaint and mental struggle,
So that's the resistance.
that's the resistance,
Okay.
is a primary cause of our suffering.
Okay.
He encourages you to consciously practice saying yes to life as it unfolds,
Okay.
to accept the reality of the present moment,
Okay.
even if it's not what you would have chosen.
So even if it's difficult, expert speaker